The Venice Grand Prize winning Evil Does Not Exist, directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, is my favorite film of the year so far. It is an odd project to follow up on one of the most astonishing two-hander in recent memory, especially with Drive My Car becoming his most widely celebrated work by a wide margin, with 4 Oscar nominations and taking home the Best International Feature Film award for Japan. But this elliptical and elusive eco-fable is nonetheless the further cement of his unique talent. Across his directing career, Ryusuke Hamaguchi always has the interest in grasping the murk between pretension and authentic human emotions. In Asako 1 and 2, he asked the same actor to portray behaviorally opposite love interests in order to muffle the relationship between unattainable love and mundane love. In Well of Fortune and Fantasy, human connections are found through 3 individual stories of playful mind games. In Drive My Car, he builds the dramaturgical triad of work, art, and life to see where catharsis would fit in. All 3 films are interrogative and quasi-paternature that amounts to the feeling of dissecting your own dreams. Evil Does Not Exist to me is about perception, the way different kinds of people see the world. It is a far more radical outlook for Hamaguchi, both in terms of its subject matter and the way he employs his style onto an uncharted, surrealistic canvas. If Hamaguchi's previous works are lucid dreams, then Evil Does Not Exist is a dread-infused nightmare that will shatter whatever previous notion you have about his films or even the world we live in at large. The film's impetus revolves around its composer, Aiko Ishibashi, the same composer as Drive My Car, requesting Hamaguchi to make a film that accompanies her new album. Unsure of his approach, Hamaguchi decided to research Ishibashi's musical process, and through that, he learned nature is a critical inspiration for Ishibashi and decided on the film's setting, a rural village named Mitsubuki that is close to where his composer actually works. The score is at times reminiscent of Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight. At times, experimental horror beats are recognizable from the sound design. Its malleable form complements the film's elemental imageries. The film's opening is a gliding shot of the camera gazing up at the sky filled with overhead canopies. In companion with Ishibashi's melancholic violin, the atmosphere becomes eerie. The unsettling feeling stems from us viewers questioning what perspective we are looking at this shot from. It's starting to feel as if the trees are trying to whisper something to us. In most scenes that contain music, the score always abruptly cuts off. During an interview at the New York Film Festival, Hamaguchi mentioned this is a response from him to preserve the beauty of the music while still creating a distance between the score and the images themselves. This devoid of emotional manipulation is what separates the film from its more traditional counterparts. In the context of Hamaguchi's oeuvre, the most disparate element of the film is its setting. So far in his career, Hamaguchi has been a city man. His characters usually live in a metropolis like Tokyo that is populated by city lights, subways, and high-rise buildings. With Evil Does Not Exist, he chose to tell a story 2 hours outside of Tokyo. Mitsubuki is a peaceful village with only a handful of inhabitants. Its tranquil sceneries attract a Tokyo-based model agency to come in and propose the development plan of a glamping site. The term glamping stands for glamorous camping. It is basically designed for city folks who want to immerse themselves in raw nature without making any real effort. This concept itself, the idea of authenticity versus embellishment, is crucial to the film's central conflict. There is a trite version of this film, a didactic Morris tale where its making is analogous to the film's critique. A big city crew traveling into a small town, enforcing a cliché story of right and wrong, and decorating the place with veneers of travelogue vistas. Luckily, Evil Does Not Exist is spared of this hypothesis. It is a film that is as perceptive as it is ambiguous as it is atmospheric. In the beginning, we are introduced to Takumi, a middle-aged, self-proclaimed jack-of-all-trades handyman. He has an 8-year-old daughter who often wanders off into the woods for her own quest. The first act of the film follows him executing his daily routine as he saws and chops a tree trunk into firewood, scoops up water from a creek for the local ramen restaurant, and picks up his daughter from daycare. Although he always misses her when he gets there, Hamaguchi films all of Takumi's actions with rigid, ingenuous neutrality. We never intrude any of his actions. The shots never break as we observe him perform these tasks in real time. The blockings are assimilated into the presence of trees, phragmites, and the frozen river. We are also treated with sensorial pleasures from the thump of a wood falling on the ground, footsteps treading on snow and fallen leaves, and the drizzling water running through the creek. This modest documentarian quality removes the glamour and finds peace in mundane work. we get an accurate look at what lives are like when you live in a rural village. The film never explains Takumi's inner emotions. For the majority of the film, we observe him in medium long shots in harmony with his natural surroundings. We learn he is a widower from a photo on his living room table, but never does he strike a monologue about his wife or speak much at all. When he does open his mouth, his voice has a chilling stream of clarity that sounds identical to the water running down a creek. He is revered by other villagers for his knowledge on every species of birds and plants in the village. There is a sense that he has been living on this land for so long that he is basically blending with the landscape. Every one of his actions feels determined yet unassuming. Hitoshi Omika gives a rare performance that is hard to pinpoint yet extremely captivating. This captivation emphasizes the film's unique magic, the ability to provide new perspectives, narratively and formally. As a great director does, Hamaguchi would often disorients our perception by bringing his formal documentarian approach. He is discontent by us simply observing. We are subjected to perspectives of different objects along Takumi's daily routine. When Takumi introduces the ramen restaurant owner to a kind of wasabi leaf, the scene is shot from the perspective of the plant. When he drives away from the daycare to find his daughter, we watch the departure from the viewpoint of the van's rear end. Later in the film, we see a shot from the perspective of a rotting deer corpse. These shots submerge the audience deeper into this world as we become a part of the nature itself. They also provide a chilling semi-fourth wall breaking effect as the characters are looking right into the camera, and subsequently into us. We often hear in reviews that locations can be characters themselves. Here, Hamaguchi accomplishes that through pure formal talent. He introduces everything in this place collectively as a dormant giant, and hints there's so much we don't see beneath the surface. Evil Does Not Exist expands its perspective as it progresses. In what is arguably the film's most compelling scene, two corporate representatives host a council meeting and answer to the villagers' concerns. Hamaguchi moves his sharp formal elegance indoors as he frames the procedural in an authentic manner. His talent at capturing real human faces shines the brightest here. We witness Takumi and a few other villagers calmly, sincerely raise their concerns. Their faces and desperate eyes relent the sense of urgency and authenticity in dichotomy with the brazen, fake smiley face, diplomatic posturing of the two representatives. The naturalistic style shows a sign of respect to the individuals pleading their case and a form of confidence from Hamaguchi to direct the gripping scene without extra artifice. A major concern lies in the creation of a septic tank that will release human waste into the lower streams that the locals feed on. The local will have literal shit in their daily water. The accrual of their agony, hopelessness, and pleas blend the grand social injustice, dumbfounded ridiculousness of corporate greed with the precarious personal. Watching the defeated face of the two presenters is marginally rewarding and more dreadful to realize their futility. The most surprising narrative twist in Evil Does Not Exist is perspective shift onto the two corporate representatives when they get back to Tokyo. This change definitely recontextualizes the previous council meeting. Through Hamaguchi's penchant for vehicular conversations, the two are humanized as we learn about their personalities on the drive back to Mizubuki. Here lies the greatest strength of Evil Does Not Exist. Despite all of its unorthodox elements, it never loses the inherent logic and insight it has on the world. The malevolence we feel about the two slowly erodes as the film astutely points out the obvious. The two representatives are just little vulnerable pieces within the rampant capitalist system. They both contain hubris and ignorance, but what human doesn't? The two returns to Mizubuki in the third act, and what follows is a dreamlike journey they take with Takumi, which I will not spoil. All I can say is pay attention to how the scenes are structured comparing to the first act. For a film with evil in its title, it's more unnerving and frustrating that evil cannot be easily identified. The naturalistic setting allows for Hamaguchi to create some of the most striking imageries of his career that makes the film a masterful mood piece. The landscapes are not ornamental backdrops, they take the front stage to reveal something more personal and malicious. He captures the unnerved within the limpid frozen lake, smoke rushing out of the chimney in front of the magic hour sunset. A pile of smoking cow feces is transformed into one of the most memorable frames you will find in a film this year. A single drip of blood creates more intense fear than most horror films. We hear sporadic gunshots from unknown deer hunters afar. Are these red herrings or harbingers of imminent danger? The inner logic of the film begins to dispatch from the common sense as the area gets physically mistier. Evil Does Not Exist is filled with iconoclast imageries that makes you question your own place in this world. Following the film's release, the most discussed and debated over element is its ending. A lot of people are baffled by the events and some even calling it senseless. It's understandable to be confused. Most of the characters in the films are, and the film itself is metaphorically covered by mist by the end. Having only seen the film once, I find the ending to be abstract but intuitive. It is one of the most assuring endings I've seen from a new release this year. Without spoilers, it's where the natural and the proverbial join pass. Throughout the film, there is a knowledge gap between the village folks and the city dwellers. The village elder and Takumi respects nature. They believe people upstream needs to take care of the people downstream. The people from the glamping company, on the other hand, believes they need to begin construction as soon as possible to stay ahead of the competition and keep the government subsidies. It is this gap between the laws of natural world and the laws of capitalism that creates an imbalance, but nature is all about keeping its balance, in whatever ways it can. Evil Does Not Exist ultimately strikes as a hypnotic tale of activism and justifies it not with morals, but self-defense against animosity. It is a quasi-metaphysical representation of how human instinct works, from which Hamaguchi provokes with impeccable and raw formal control. And this concludes my review. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.